Warning: the following podcast contains violent scenes that may be unsettling to some listeners. Listener discretion is advised. There are nights when the past refuses to stay buried, when the ashes of old sins still glow faintly in the dark, waiting to be disturbed, waiting to breathe again. In the Twin Cities, those embers are stirring. What once burned bright has cooled to memory, but memory has a way of catching fire. Old alliances, forgotten debts, and ghosts of the dam all smolder beneath the surface. And those who seek to uncover them may find that some flames never truly die. Hello and welcome to Vampire the Masquerade, Twin Cities by Night Embers, the fourth story in the ongoing chronicle of Twin Cities by Night, a tale of what remains when the fire fades and what's left behind to burn. Warren, you are sitting cross-legged style on a cheap bed in a hotel room. Sitting 2 feet in front of you, similarly, is Cynthia, your former lover, former sire, former tormentor, who now has been embedded within you, has intertwined within your soul due to the diablerie that you committed on her. This hotel room looks vaguely familiar. Looks like a room that you and her used to meet in when she was courting you, when you were finding yourself falling madly in love with her on those escapades before that bloody night in 1945. The carpet in this room has this brownish orange tinge to it, and there is a nightstand that you can see behind her with a mirror. But unlike nowadays, this hotel room doesn't have any form of entertainment in it. It just has a lone Bible, black leather bound, that is sitting underneath that mirror. You see that Cynthia looks different than any time that you've known her. You see now that actually her skin seems to have some parlor to it. Her lips seem to be a little more moist than they were when you two were originally talking to each other, originally having conversations, drawing each other in. She seems to have eyes that have a light within them now, that don't seem dull, especially that dull, painful look she used to have across her face for the last 10 years that you've known her. So she looks at you and she says, Warren, when I was younger, when I was a child, I used to have this idea that death was when your love that you have for everything is shared across the world. It is shared in the wind, it is shared in the blades of grass, it's shared in the people that you love. Do you love me, Warren?
Warren will just stare at her blankly while his mind races and rehashes everything that's happened to him involving her since the 40s. And after several long moments, in a very flat voice, no, no, I don't.
So do you feel like you're cursed now with us being together like this?
Time will pass and my beast will consume you, and then I will have peace.
Do you really think you will ever find peace in this life with what's going on out there? And you see she like motions with her left hand to a door that is has a deadbolt and has one of those chains. And you can see though that the door is starting to like shake and vibrate like something's trying to get in.
Maybe.
Do
I
you
can
want
only hope.
do you want to die, Warren?
No.
But then we're gonna need to work together because that, and she motions to the door again, that's death trying to reclaim me through you.
Fine. What do we need to do?
Really, the question's gonna come down to what do you want to do?
I want to be free.
Of what?
You.
Of me? You brought this on yourself. I didn't ask for this. Why did you do this to me?
I didn't ask for this either.
Why did you take my life?
Why did you ruin mine?
She looks away. You see for a second and looks at the door that's still like vibrating like something's trying to get in. Then she looks back at you. I don't know. No one writes a book about this, right? There's nothing to prepare you for this. How was I supposed to know how I would react to the traumas that happened to me against my will in my life? I saw everything that had made me feel like I was something destroyed in front of me. And the only thing that prevented me from meeting that same fate was you. And I had to live with that guilt, knowing that you were the one who was partially responsible for that guilt consuming me. How would you react to that? If everything that the people who saved you from a life of pain, who gave you a purpose, were all destroyed in front of you, and you were forced to exist without them. And the one person that you loved constantly reminded you of that loss.
Warren will just look at her like, "Are you fucking kidding me right now?"
You saw what happened to me before I came here to the cities. Out of character, you remember what happened to her? Where you,
Vaguely, yes.
okay, just a reminder. You had a vision where she had in Boston before she was embraced in her probably mid-teens, 15, 16 years old. She had been kidnapped by Roman, Dunsern, and others with the intent of potentially, hypothetically, bringing her over to the Giovanni clan through one of the subfamilies. And the whole reason why they were even remotely interested in her in that way was because she had shown maybe some latent abilities to be able to commune with the dead within the Italian community at that time in the 1920s era Boston. What had happened was that Roman and associates of the Giovanni in the city had numerously raped her and tortured her and tried to break her will because they felt like that is what would need to be done for her to be brought over. And she actually ended up escaping. And in her move of escaping, she fled through various means, hopping trains, traveling at that time was very difficult. And eventually she was found by members of the Tremere clan and ended up in the Twin Cities where she was embraced. So I just want to give that quick backstory there just to remind you.
Yeah, he'll give her that "are you fucking kidding me" look. I don't have to theorize or wonder. You turned around and passed all of that pain on to me. You destroyed my family. You destroyed me. You enslaved me. And you took great delight in making me suffer every night of my existence.
She nods to you and then she says, "Well, Warren, what are we going to do now then?"
I could just make it easy and step into the dawn.
You could do that. Yes, but I think that deep inside maybe you have some scores to settle. Am I wrong?
I've already killed you. What is there left?
Well, have you asked yourself, Warren, who else may have gained from your services? Have you asked yourself why you maybe ended up in some of the situations that you ended up in? Have you taken a moment to look past the pain that you feel to see how you too are being manipulated? You've become so preoccupied with your anger and your pain and you don't see that there are maybe others who are pushing you in that direction too? Why do you think Jenna told you to take me the way you did? Couldn't you have simply have killed me without consuming my soul?
Maybe. I don't know.
Do you think she's a friend of yours?
I don't know. I don't think I have friends.
You say that you think about wanting to maybe step out into the light, which is your prerogative if you decide to. But out there, and she nods to the door that's pounding again, you went with some people to find something, correct? Why didn't you walk
Yes.
out into the sun before that?
I don't know.
You say you're angry at me because I manipulated you. Yes, and I caused you pain, right? Maybe it's your turn.
You you brought me to rock bottom and then drilled me deeper and deeper.
Warren, you lack personal accountability, which I don't fault you with. I have a different view of seeing things now. I mean, obviously, right? I'm not burdened with the mortal coil, but you need to think, Warren. There's other people. There's a lot that is going on. You decided to kill those two boys. Why did you end up in those Echo projects? Why did you get excommunicated? Why are you on the run and hiding? Was that because of me? I never told you to do those things. Who did? And why did she? You're gonna have to figure that out. You're about to wake up soon anyways. So I'm sure we're gonna have a lot of talks like this, Warren. Then your eyes open up and you hear the wind blowing through the leaves of a tree as you see in front of you while you're sitting down in a driveway of this house, this small single story house that looks like it was a ranch style home that was built in the 60s. You see a dark trail that is in front of you. And you see the wind is kind of blowing parts of the trail, and you realize it's a path of ash. And you remember having seen Ty Harper, the former sheriff of the Twin Cities and the Bruja of the clan Bruja, who had been drug underneath this car by tendrils of shadow. You remember trying to speak to him and having your voice be consumed by silence and seeing this figure that had been standing 20 feet away, dressed in a nun habit with abnormal looking features and shadows that seemed to be coming from her torso. And for a moment, you're discombobulated as you're sitting there, seeing this ash, feeling the cool air, the breeze, hearing the leaves rustle a little bit. What are you doing?
He'll activate heightened senses and take a look around.
As you look around, you see very distinctly that that trail that's in front of you is ash that's being blown away. Everything seems oddly, even on top of your heightened senses, but everything that generates a form of illumination and light seems even sharper now than it would have before the events that you just witnessed. It was as if the shadow somehow in front of you earlier had absorbed that light, had absorbed the shadows within it. And now that light has been dispersed back into the sources, so it radiates brighter than it would have before, with a sense of freedom, right, that it didn't have. So the stars are brighter, the lamps from the street are brighter, the warm glow, the warm light that is coming from the picture window of this house that you had seen Valentine and William and Kaitao walk into seems even brighter than normal. It's extremely off-putting to you because you have used heightened senses before at night, right? And you would have seen more clearly, but this seems to be as if a filter has been placed over reality for a second there. Like things are adjusting back to how they should be. And right now the light is overcompensating. I'm going to cut to Kaitao and William. William, your eyes open, along with Kaitao's. In your head, you have this vague reminiscence. You're totally discombobulated. You are extremely confused at the moment. You feel like how it used to feel when you were mortal and you woke up from a dream that was very surreal and you do not know if you're awake or if you're still dreaming or what situation you are in because it literally felt like you just had a deep, insightful conversation with someone and you're trying to like grasp what was discussed and who you discuss things with, but it's almost like it's falling through your fingers when you try to cup water with an open hand. And as you are sitting there, extremely confused, your sight's not focused. And slowly you get brought back to reality and you see Katao sit next to you. Like you both had somehow fallen into a sitting position and you see him and you look straight ahead and you see this body that has been completely ravaged, like from the throat down to the sternum. The rib cage has been cracked open. It reminds you of a time when you were a child and your mother would occasionally have your cook a whole chicken for your family, like in the German European style, right? Because your mother was from Europe. And your father, one time when this was done, had came back from some sort of get together with his friends. And he was almost belligerently intoxicated, but still under control of his own faculties. And he had completely lost himself into this chicken in the kitchen before it was even served to the family. Like ripped it open with his hands. It was just kind of getting the grease and the juices as he's eating. And you had to be like 6 or 7 years old watching him. And he was just like a total carnivore, ripping the breast open, ripping meat from it. And that's what this body looks like now. And you see tilted to the side the head and these dull gray soulless eyes staring at you, and it is Cindy, the one who had been pregnant, who had known Carlos. Katao, you slowly see this also, and it is currently just you two in this body laying there. No Valentine, None of those no Donald, the one who had been wrapped completely in the plastic hazmat suit. None of these people who had been preaching about some group called the Pale Riders coming back and to tell Brentwood it was going to happen. Scenes on you guys.
What just happened?
Think Kaitao is he's breathing heavily because he sees the body. He sees that it's someone they were trying to keep alive, and it's just the latest in a string of people who he wanted to keep alive, but now they're not. And also, there's blood everywhere, and it's just a body. It's all just whirling around in his head, and he is standing there. You can tell he is not quite frenzying, but he is definitely a good chunk of the way there. And he's just looking at this body and just William,
Yes,
this is Cindy, right? The one of us, the pregnant vampire.
I believe so. Yes. I- It's wrong. I mean, we saw something else, right? You feel it, right? The vision or the dream.
It's vampire magic something. Kaitao like grabs the nearest piece of furniture and just starts like just starts like basically grabs his hands and just starts twisting and creaking, and you could see he is clearly twisting. He's breaking this, and he is like a hair's breadth from just starting smashing it against the closest wall or something.
I'm actually going to have you give me a self-control roll, please. We'll say difficulty 4.
Okay, so I have a 10 and two fours.
All right, so
Gotta remember.
you see Katal goes to this, he like stands up slowly and he goes to this dining room table chair. This room, this house you're in is a single floor ranch house that has no separation from the kitchen to the living room, right? So you all were kind of both sitting on where the kitchen goes from this cheap wood laminate to kind of a shag tan carpet. In the middle of this living room, there is the body of Cynthia, where she had been ravaged and murdered. You see the coffee table that was in the middle was partially glass, had two glass segments, and that had been cracked and broken. You see blood splattered over the carpet, like there had been a commotion there. The room seems bright. I mean, not like you're staring into the sun, but like light should not be impacting your senses like this. It even adds more to this fevered, dreamlike feeling that you all have just from everything that happened in this room in such a short amount of time. Katao stands up and goes to this dining room chair, and you just see him start cracking it. Almost like starts breaking first the cheap wood that is in the upper back section of the chair that goes across someone's shoulders when they sit in it, and he just cracks that first. And you see Slavic, he's almost doing it like a young boy will break a twig when he's thinking with his friends. What is going on in your mind right now, William, when you see this?
William will probably be watching him, but more of a, I don't know, a sort of dark curiosity, not necessarily morbid, but dark.
Why
It's
dark?
like, well, you know, William, he's not really in touch with his humanity, right? Things happened. He's at Humanity 4, and he wasn't,
Detached.
yeah, he's very detached. He was always kind of cold, but now he's just like stone cold, right? And so it's almost like when you're watching an animal and you see it do something, right? Like maybe at a zoo or something, and you don't really understand why it's doing something. And that sort of curiosity that's within William right now. But he's also kind of a very practical person, right? So he's thinking about, fuck, we have to deal with this body.
And especially like, I mean, you're in an interesting predicament, right? Because you've seen a lot in the last year, right? We can go back to like the original moral compass of the Coterie. She's no longer with you all.
Yep.
She got murdered by someone. At this time, you guys are under the impression that Roman murdered her, or Roman Dunstern or the Giovanni had something to do with her murder. Then you saw another member of your coterie disappear. And in a way, Kaitao has taken this role of almost being now the moral compass, I would say, of the group, right? but you have seen that slipped. You're watching it like an animal because you saw him slice the ear off of Samantha Harper after the Echo Project thing to make a point, right? And now he's sitting there reacting to this. And like you said, you had that body,
And you
right?
can't forget that when William lost his humanity, his essentially his hold on being a human being was when I'm not sure if Kaitao frenzied, but when he ripped that guy to shreds.
Oh yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then on top of that, we can even add what happened to William right before this when you desperately went to Ellsworth after you found out that you had been excommunicated from the protection of the Camarilla within the city and what all happened with that, right? So and then on top of that, I mean, I hate to keep piling on you, but then you had the dementation that happened that you've been dealing with,
Yeah.
right? So all this has been pulling you like dramatically away from reality. And now you're seeing this person who is impacted by things that you really aren't as morally impacted by, which by the way, I need you to roll me a perception and alertness roll because I want you, since you are so more right now, like you said, kind of detached, you're going to be more observant.
What's the difficulty?
Yeah, it's difficulty 6.
All right, that's 3 successes.
3 successes. So as you're looking at Kaitao there, and you hear this crack, crack, and it's getting more intense, right? You kind of out of the corner eye, you're thinking, you mentioned you're thinking like, oh great, another body, right? And you're looking over and you see her eyes almost seem to be looking at you, like her mouth is agape, and there's like blood coming out of her mouth, and her tongue is kind of hanging, and you're like, wait, there's no fetus. And you kind of do this curious look past the rib cage, and you're trying to make out what you can from there, and you don't see what you imagined would be there. So that's gone too.
Not
Which
sure if that's a good or bad thing.
exactly, because if you were to assume there's a reason why so many people were after this woman. You had the Putinesca brothers who were pressured. If you remember when you and Katao talked to the Putinesca brothers, and they were part of trying to find her, right? And then you had those people who are somehow tied to the Echo projects and tied to Little and Samantha Harper and Max and that odd experience that Warren had were after this. And now potentially, I mean, what did she have that these people wanted? Was it her or was it what she was carrying? Probably what she was carrying if this is gone now. And now who are those people who got that? Now who is this third group who just showed themselves? Right? All right, scene's on you.
William will, after examining the corpse, he'll go to Kaitao and put a hand on his shoulder, or maybe even on his arm, as he's like breaking and twisting things. And he'll say, the child is missing.
What?
It's missing.
What? He looks down at the body. No. How? But it. Would
That's the price. That's what we should focus on.
It's alive?
Has to be. Or if not, it has to be valuable, dead.
But. Uh, damn it! Why does this make no sense? Why is there. Okay.
One thing at a time. One thing at a time. We need to clean this up.
Yes.
Cut to Warren. Warren, you hear with your heightened senses as you're looking around, you hear, damn it, through the door. And you recognize it's the voice of Kaitao, who had gone in there with William and Valentine. And you both, by the way, Kaitao and William, you both notice also that that Nosferatu child is no longer there either. I'll say scene's on you, Warren, right now.
Warren will look towards the door, and then after hearing the conversation about the Nosferatu child, he'll look around and see if he can find any trail.
So they weren't talking about the Nosferatu child. They're talking about the child who was the baby that was within Cindy's body.
Oh, okay.
You just hearing
Sorry.
something about the child missing, and you kind of just heard that, I mean,
Okay.
and hypothetically, you don't know though. They could be talking about the Nosferatu child, right? They're just saying child, and the child's gone. I guess in theory, right? You don't know the context because you're outside, but
Yeah. That's kind of where Warren's head will go. And he'll think that the Nosferatu dipped, and he'll try to look around to see if he can find a trail for the Nosferatu. Because Warren, remember, he's the security expert. He's also a little paranoid.
yeah, yeah. Go ahead and give me give me a second.
He's also down to humanity 3, so his mind is not exactly intact at the moment.
I think Poor fucking Kaitao's the only person who has a fucking intact mind if we really want to have an honest coming to Jesus moment here. Give me a perception and investigation roll. Difficulty, we'll do 6. Difficulty 6.
That's 3 successes, yeah,
Yeah,
because
yeah. You are walking around the front yard, which is rather small. It's not large, it's not small. It's an average front yard size for a house that was built in the era, like I said, the 70s. Has a oak tree that's in the front. That's what you heard the wind breezing through. And you first start walking around it and you're looking in the direction of where that figure in that nun's habit was that you saw. And oddly, you don't see any trace that something was there. No grass that was bent down, nothing. You still see this ash that's slowly like getting caught in the wind in little tufts.
Warren's going to touch some of the ash. What kind of ash? What does it feel like? Is it like
Mhm.
wood ash? Is it corpse ash?
It's ash like you found yourself in not but a day ago.
Okay, that's concerning.
Yes. And you look as you're looking and you remember looking at Ty Harper when you were trying to talk to them and all of a sudden him like when you were looking face to face at him, he had a car behind him. And then you saw him like get yanked down almost like his when that happened, you saw that it was almost like his height shrunk by a foot. And then you heard him screaming and blood was shooting out of his mouth and you saw him getting tugged from under the car. And that's when you saw those large entanglements of tendrils of shadow that were pulling him, and that's when you blacked out. Katal, I'm going to have you roll a perception alertness roll for me, please. Difficulty 5.
1, 2, 3, and 3 ones. A 10, a 8, and a 7.
So yeah, no successes. Yeah, because you got 3 ones, they canceled them out. Okay, and scenes on you again, Katal and William.
Okay, we have to. Okay, first things first. Body, escape, figure out what the hell just happened. Kaitao will
Agree.
sort of walk over to Cindy's body. Are her eyes open?
Yes, and it's eerie because they're staring out blank as if they're lost in thought of something that you can't comprehend. And her mouth is ajar and her like I said her tongue is kind of slightly hanging out, dried blood, almost like it had been spurred out of it. It reminds you of when you were a young boy at one time, when you were at one of your foster homes. And the couple who ran the foster home, this was actually one of the good ones. And they were huge proponents of taking the children that they fostered to the library, the public library. They didn't have a lot of money. And what they really wanted to instill in the children they had was knowledge was power, right? Knowledge gave you a leg in life that maybe you all didn't receive, through having a normal structured family or having a background of finances or whatever it may be. And you were probably like 11 or 12 years old and you had this friend. You don't remember his name because there's a lot of kids he came across, right? He's an African American kid. And you all were at that edgy 11, 12-year-old age thinking, ooh, we're going to look at these books that kind of like are a little dark or a little whatever. And you remember he had found a book on someone called Jack the Ripper. And you remember looking through the book, and there wasn't a lot of pictures, but they did have pictures, early photography, when photography wasn't at the forefront of civilization. And there's this one distinct picture that you remember of one of the victims. And you couldn't, the thing that was scary about that picture was it wasn't the most clear and detailed picture, but it showed you enough to let you know that something barbaric had happened and your imagination filled in the rest. And that is what you think of when you're looking down at Cindy right now. And maybe you're even thinking about that body you had in your bathtub. Because what did that make you, Kaitao? Oh,
There
go ahead.
is a very big thrill of twinge of shame that runs through Kaitao at that moment because he knows it was a just sheer horrible, unlucky circumstances that led him to draining that poor woman dry. But after that, he's the one who chose to clearly bring her back to his place and cut up the body. And now now she just vanished as far as everyone else is concerned.
Would you say that you notice a difference in William right now from when you first met him?
I'd say it's a slight, but I do think he would notice it at somewhat. Just in that before, when they were asked to look at, horrible, bloody scenes, William, he was hiding his reaction, but he had a reaction. Now, when he looks at William looking around now, looking at everything, he just sees, oh, it's just not even phasing him anymore. There's just no. He's just, I am looking at this thing. This is a dead body. It's a body. I have no emotional attachment to that beyond that.
And one also thing, observation, maybe that might come across your purview is the fact that you have become this, in a way, I mean, you're still your own individual, but you've become almost like this love child of Jonathan Chase and Ophelia Juno, right? Where you have this cold, calculating side of you when it's needed, and then you have this empathetic, sorrowful side. But the thing is, which side's going to win? Because there always has to be one of those two types that are in charge. You can't be both.
Yeah, and Kaitao has no idea what the answer to that is at this moment. So instead, he's going to find something to He's going to try to close Cindy's eyes, give her at least some shred of dignity, and be okay. We need something to drag the body out. Like a linen bed sheet, something.
Shouldn't we burn this place down?
Might good potential. Yeah, actually, yeah, that would save a lot of trouble, and it might clear off whatever that shadow thing was. But
And
no,
all
no. But we need clues. We need information. We need proof that it wasn't just some kind of horrible hallucination that we just saw people come out of a shadow. We need look around. Is there any? Do you see any kind of evidence? Any kind of thing? Another Kindred was here.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, do I see anything like that?
Oh, okay. I know what I'll do here. Bear with me, all right? I'm gonna have you do uh I'm gonna have you do a wits and occult difficulty 9. I kind of hope you make it, but yes.
So let's okay. I did give him 1 point in occult just because of all the things
Yeah.
happening. I feel like
And
it makes
I'm not
sense.
saying you got to do this, right? But don't forget about willpower, you know what I
All
mean? But I know
right.
like, but go ahead. It's your call.
Wits plus occult then.
Hmm.
All right. I mean, I will spend a willpower point on that.
Okay.
Just because. Wow, 2 successes on top
Holy
of that. So
shit.
three successes.
Before I tell you what happens, Warren, you are looking at that ash and you look through the picture window and you see Kaitao bending down and doing something, but you can't quite make out what he's touching, or it looks like he's reaching out to something, but you can't make out what's on the ground. And you see William looking around for a second, and he looks out the window and he sees you for a second, and you see his mouth goes slack a little bit. And you notice this too, Katal, when after you close your eyes, you kind of look at William and you see like his eyes glaze over for a little bit and his mouth slacks. And then you just hear this raw, painful scream, like he's screaming out of fear and panic emerges from his throat. Hey, thanks for listening. Producing this podcast takes time, energy, and real cost, from hosting fees to editing and artwork. If you enjoy what we do and want to help us keep creating, consider supporting us on Patreon. Even a small pledge makes a big difference in covering expenses and letting us focus on bringing you more stories, more episodes, and better quality. You can find the link in the show notes. We'd love to have you as part of our community. Also, feel free to join our Discord, which is also listed in the show notes.